Welcome to the show. Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast, episode 14. 14 deep in this piece.
Oh, dang.
So in today's episode, we want to talk about the power of black business, the power of black family, and the power of black love.
Yes.
The juggling act of life, family, love, and business, and how we keep it all afloat. To do that, we brought two of our friends in, two very special guests, our friends Augie and Sylvia from the Dinobi brand.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah. Hello, world. This is Augie, or Augustine. Some folks that know me on the other side of my life. But I would describe myself as a serial fatherpreneur. I've had so many ideas, but the best idea I think I had was marrying my wife.
Oh, that was so nice.
Definitely a class upgrade. I'm from the Wild Hunters and from Inglewood, so it was a class upgrade for me. You know, she's a little bougie. But I'll let her introduce herself.
I mean, after that, there's really not much to say. My name's Sylvia. I'm from Greenville, Mississippi.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeehaw.
Moved to Chicago for my lovely husband. 4 children later.
Ooh.
We're still here, still kicking.
4 and counting?
4.
Yeah.
And that's it.
4
and we stop.
You get one more, you have a starting 5.
No. No more.
For sure.
And yeah, that's it.
Cool. So Augie and Sylvia, how about you tell us just a little bit about yourselves, and how about we get right in and you guys talk about the Dinobi brand. Joy and I are very excited about it. So excited. We brought you to the show as soon as we possibly could to hear more about your story, your brand, and we want to get into how you guys balance your mini football team that you guys have, along with your own individuality and your own identities and your identities as a couple. And just Joy and I, with our 2 kids, we don't match up, but we're trying to it's something that
Is there a bullet, like a shotgun shot in the background? Because it's just been like
There's a lot of shots being thrown. You should see the way we get judged when we walk in the grocery stores and whatnot. And we got to rambunctious
I
group.
can't minutes to come in. They still coming?
How do y'all shop?
But real talk, like seriously, you guys check the boxes in terms of friends. Like you got to, in order to roll with us, you got to at least have a couple kids. Got to be entrepreneurial in spirit, even if you work a job. So I'm glad that we actually in this space. I'll start off with myself. I'm born and raised Chicago, man. Like love my city to death. And actually, I met Sylvia because you know how it is being a teenager in our city. Sometimes it's a little tough. So I decided to go to college away from Chicago. Went to a small HBCU in Jackson, Mississippi called Jackson State University.
Oh, okay.
Sonic Boom of the South. Shout out to all my Sonic Boomers out there. And then in about my second or third year in the business department, I met Sylvia. And I thought Sylvia was dope. I was like, this girl is like the prototype. I mean, oh my God, these teeth are so white. It's crazy. And then, never really had the courage to really step up and say too much. But there was a little quiet infatuation there. A few years later down the road, man, Mark Zuckerberg, you my dude. I know you going, whatever. But anyway, Facebook was invented. And I found her on Facebook.
Wow.
It was on. I started Facebook romancing from the jump. And then that's how Sylvia was recruited to come to Chicago, get addicted to mild sauce, and bear through the winter.
I don't know about being through the winter. And you drove me in on 79th. I was not happy. But anyway.
I can't believe you threw a shot in my city.
So I'm from Greenville, Mississippi. Went to Jackson State University. I actually was a nursing student before. My parents are very strict, and they were like, this is what you're going to do, and this is all I'm going to pay for. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I went to Jackson State and took out a bunch of loans and kind of fell into accounting. I'm an accountant to this day.
Oh.
And met him at Jackson State, but we kind of knew a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
We kind of hung out with some of the same people, but we were never like in the same circle per se. Fast forward to 8 years later and a bunch of Facebook posts, and here we are.
There we go. There you go. People forget Facebook was just .edu when it first started, so it was a
It
perfect
was
way to
like
preach.
blackplanet.com
It was like-
part
Black
2.
Planet.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
college club.
What was Augie's first Facebook message to you? Like, I really enjoy your shirt in that photo. how do you?
You know what? I was struggling with going to church or something. I made some random post about being struggling to go to church.
Oh,
And I was
okay.
like, okay. Then he inboxes me, I think. Did you comment on the post? I don't even know.
I co-labored with the Lord.
Okay,
Oh.
whatever.
you go.
So then he starts making a conversation about it because I didn't know. So I was Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and he was
Okay.
raised Catholic. So it kind of, made sense as to what he was saying and why I should go and this, that, and the third because he actually knew what I was talking about. And then it just kind of went from there. Then it was,
okay.
can I get your BlackBerry Messenger? Bang. It was BlackBerry. I'm telling my
Oh,
age.
BlackBerry.
So can I BlackBerry Messenger you right quick? And
Can
then
I-
it was, can I get your phone number? He slithered his way in.
But can I make a comment about, like, this is a critical comment too. Sometimes when wives retell stories, they don't really give you all the game
That's not-
credit, like when you're the husband. Because I remember that story, and I remember saying, if you go to mass, I'm gonna send you some Garrett's popcorn.
did
It's
send
gonna
me some Garrett's
magically
popcorn.
show up at
Wow,
your
that's
desk
really
at your
good.
It
job.
did. It did show up at my
Man.
job. It did. Yeah.
And guess
Wow.
what? It showed up.
It did.
A little stale, a
With a
little
note.
late.
I
but
still
it
have
showed
that
up,
note.
though.
Yes.
Oh, that's adorable. That's adorable.
My credit.
Get your credit.
So
Okay.
a visit to the Lord's house and a 10 years later, we have a caravan of kids that
The
has,
Odyssey family. man.
yeah, that has led you guys down a path of entrepreneurship and brand ownership. Can you guys talk a little bit about your brand and how you guys, kind of divide the workload of the brand work versus the housework versus I call it parenting work? How does that kind of go down with you guys?
Well, we kind of have to split it. I'm not going to say down the middle. We have learned to ebb and flow with each other. So like, for instance, as we were talking about earlier, I had quit once we had the fourth child. I quit my job because he was working about 16 hours a day, and with the school system and whatnot.
Do you mind talking about your career, what you were doing for 16 hours a day?
Yeah, 16 hours a day. I had gotten school turnaround work. So I was born and raised in Chicago. I've kind of got an interesting, backstory myself. So through that backstory, I grew an affinity to young men, young women, especially young black men and women in underserved schools. So I decided that, as soon as I came out of college, instead of continuing on with, I was actually with Clear Channel at the time or whatever, trying to figure out if I wanted to use that marketing degree or not. I decided that I wanted to spend more time with the youth in Chicago. But of course, I was attracted to schools that were the schools in need. So I began teaching. Then after I started teaching, really developed some skill sets, had a lot of great people. And then before you knew it, I was working in the turnaround system at Finger, Harper, and Marshall, some schools that we know about that were really, really like the schools that we were pushing. Made a lot of great relationships. The next thing you know, I was in a National Principal Institute program, became a principal. And since then, I had been really, really working at schools that needed not only a turnaround, but also like a branding and perception shift, which is really, really immense work. So that work became, a part of my life's blood. But then when you have a family, your priorities, you have to just kind of reprioritize a little bit. Not saying that, the youth of Chicago is not in my heart, because that's always going to be there. But I've got to make sure that, a marriage and a family is you get out what you put in. And I think I came to a realization, especially, in God's time, just in terms of I wasn't necessarily putting in as much as I probably needed to. So I was getting out what I was getting out.
That's good. And I think the one important thing when I always think about that, like your vocation is a job and you can quit your job. Like your duties and the vows you make as a husband, as a wife, and the responsibility of the kids, those are responsibilities and duties that God has blessed you with, and you can't quit those because you'll always be a parent no matter what. Like, even if you're a bad one, you'll still be a parent. Even if you're great, you're always a parent, so you can't quit those. But I like hearing like you get in what you put out, because a lot of people don't, just say that out loud, and that's very brave of you to like kind of come on and say that, and then be like, do something about it. So just wanted our listeners to kind of have that background and context. So very high performing, very successful career, in the education field as a principal, which probably had decent money that came with
Yeah,
that as well.
definitely.
And so you left that behind though to focus on your husbandly and fatherly duties.
So she was always supporting me in being a principal and the creative pursuits outside of the principal job. And I just got to give props to my wife because this idea really came through her. And it's just interesting how like the roles have changed. Now I'm kind of supporting her. Like she's the vessel for this amazing idea. So
let's dive into this amazing idea, which is now the Dinobi brand.
Hey. So we cloth diaper. We have children with eczema. We have family members with severe skin issues. And my husband has severe eczema as well. And so as I was doing laundry, I'm like, okay, well, we have like 15 different things on the shelf. What's going on? Why is nothing working? Why is nothing working? Why are the creams not working? Why is this? And so I just flipped over the bottle one day and I was like, well, why can't I just do everything in one? I tried many plant-based brands, many things, many that, and kind of looking around the neighborhood to see what was available to us. And I just thought that, you know, we kind of needed something a little bit more high quality in our neighborhood and, you know, a little bit more accessible to us that wasn't extremely expensive, or you can only go, you know, God bless the North Side or wherever, you know, to go get it. Why do I have to go outside of my neighborhood to go get something that I need? So yeah, from there it just evolved into I asked around, found an organic chemist, another sister from Stanford University. She's super dope. Yeah, she normally works with cosmetic type stuff.
Okay.
We're the first detergent that she's worked with, and we custom made a formula. It's nothing else like it on the market that we've found, that we've researched. Nothing else like it, and here we are. That's it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So when you say plant-based, help us understand the significance of being plant-based versus what we're typically buying on the shelves at Target, Walmart, Walgreens, etc.
So right now, what we're buying, no diss to any other brand, but you don't know what's in it. And what you do find is chemicals. It's all chemicals. So you notice more people popping up with eczema. You notice more people popping up with psoriasis and other skin issues that people can't really identify, like in my sister's instance. And so the plant-based, you all notice that there's this whole movement of being, you know, plant-based or vegan or just eat plants and all that. So it wasn't really like hey, don't eat meat, only do plants, and don't, you know, no diss to anybody. But I have found that things that are plant-based or more earth-based don't typically bother the skin. That's what we found, or don't typically bother your system. We tried it with our diets and everything, and it's like we're a whole different people when we make those little changes.
So like the plant component, is there a specific plant that's associated with cleaning, I guess, or like?
Not necessarily. So for instance, the lavender is associated with healing. There's a healing component in the lavender essential oil. The coconut is another one. The cleaning with the coconut does, it kind of acts as a surfactant. It kind of helps lift off the dirt. So like the olive, there's like an olive based component in there to help get the dirt off and whatnot. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I was just intrigued because I make our own like cleaning products at our home. Yeah, because I was like, not swear, but I'm gonna swear. I'm just like, why the hell am I using this Clorox? I mean, because if you smell bleach, I mean, it's like it literally is burning my hand. Yeah. I'm like, why am I using this?
What is bleach?
What is
bleach?
Is it a plant? Is it like what is it?
Right. It's
like,
another chemical. Yeah.
And I just went on Pinterest and like, I'm gonna make this myself, homemade. So I was just curious, like, with your detergent, like, what do you guys put in it? Because I feel back in the day, a long time ago, they weren't using all these chemicals, and
Or maybe they were. We just didn't have the internet to even like.
Oh yeah,
question
probably
it,
might have been worse.
I remember the ammonia.
And
the hospital Lysol. We were using that. But no. So it's plant-based surfactants like the ones I told you. Vegetable fatty alcohol. People think when you hear vegetable fatty alcohol, it's like it's like rubbing alcohol, but it's not. It's just it's a piece of whatever's in the plant. To put it simply, lavender essential oil for healing and for a little fragrance, because fragrance is another issue that we have, that we want the smell and stuff, but essential oil doesn't harm the skin like the fragrance does. Yeah.
Got you. So, for the most part, and I think a lot of people that know me, I have a background working, on one of the major detergent brands, and they tried to they made a lot of efforts and to like help educate, not even educate, but like kind of differentiate themselves from the competition. Like they're more value based, and we learn more about the more like active cleaning ingredients versus just inert fillers that we have in there. So we did a lot about that. We learned, I learned working on that business that, sudsing does not equal clean. Matter of fact, they add stuff just so it can suds. Yeah. So people believe that, they're suds, therefore this detergent
it makes it working clean.
In reality, it's just a filler to give you the illusion of that. And the reality too is like the more detergent you add to your load, it actually works against cleaning your load. So whatever the recommended fillage line is, even was it usually line 3, like don't use more than that, because the detergent's just going to work itself. So we did a lot to educate people on that side of the spectrum, just so people got the best results. Can you tell us and help us understand, if I've been using, let's say, one of these brands for the last 15 years, does a good job protecting the colors from fading, like Joyak stain removal, cleaning. Can you help us understand how you guys like compare from an actual product efficacy standpoint across those major kind of points right there, like cleaning, color fidelity, and we just because you're plant-based, we know you're safe, but just on those two main scales,
is it effective?
The effectiveness,
So my wife would probably, stop and be like, okay, my husband runs, and everybody's wearing like compression pants. Compression pants don't let a lot of funk out though. Like
not at all. Not at all.
And then, cloth diapering, which parents, if you don't cloth diapering is a way for you to get that vacation to Costa Rica. If you had that baby, you save about $3,000 over the span of about 2 years, which is a nice amount of cash to save. Problem with cloth diapering is that you're going to have to be okay with a little boo-boo and a little urine, because you do have to wash those loads. But you need a high performing agent to clean that stuff.
Yeah.
So for us, the biggest accomplishment as far as soft data, before we go into like hard data, is that like, oh my God, my compression pants and these cloth diapers are smelling like all freshness. And that was really impossible before, even with, like you were saying, all the suds. And I was that kid that grew up, looking at the floor model TV with Big Mama, and like certain brands were conditioning me as a kid. Like you would just see all this detergent falling from the heavens, and you like, oh my God, this liquid looks so good. I want to bathe it. I want to run through it. It should come out the fire hydrant. It's amazing. And that's how you were trained to think of it. And then we get our product, and we look at this little bottle, and we're like, oh my God, how many loads? We start calculating loads. Like, oh my God, it's like 32 loads in a bottle. It's about 68 cents per load. And it's like that because it's about 3 times as concentrated. You only need so much. And when we actually started testing it on ourselves, on our friends, we started noticing that, okay, this is actually really, really cleaning our clothes with less.
Okay.
I'm going to let my wife just kind of speak a little bit more to your specific question. But I would say that, in terms of thinking about just soft, like data in terms of what really works for us, knowing that we have a really active lifestyle, a lot of different juggling parts, and a lot of different needs in our household, it definitely bounced that stuff out and was pretty effective.
So if I'm hearing you right, there's no better torture test than a cloth diaper and
compression pants.
Absolutely.
If y'all, I'm telling you.
So as far as efficacy, let's just say, for example, my beautiful son Benjamin had the runs for about a week. Coming out the diaper. So I'm changing about 3, 4, 5 times, in about a half a day. So if I fill up the drum and use 2 ounces, takes it all out.
2 ounces.
2 ounces.
2 ounces.
2 ounces.
That is effective.
It's very effective. Very. It takes out. You don't smell anything after. You might smell a hint of the lavender or something like that. You'll smell like if cloth diapers have a certain smell because of the cotton, especially if they're like unbleached.
Okay.
But it takes it all out, especially if you don't leave the diapers for like 2 weeks, which I am guilty of. Wow. Because I'm working all the time. However, it takes it out. It takes it out.
That's another huge piece of data, though.
It takes it out. I don't need to bleach necessarily. I don't recommend bleach with it. You can use it, but I don't recommend it. It doesn't leave the drum smelling like poop. People were worried about that.
Okay.
It does not. I have not yet to do a tub clean. I haven't had to.
Does it work both in front loading HE machines and top loaders all the same? So I don't need to worry about it. So the formulation works equally. Same dosage amount.
Same dosage, same everything.
Awesome.
Yeah, too, like, it would be interesting as I'll tell a slight story, but like when me and Coley first got married and then I had to like wash his shirts and stuff, I was like, oh, okay. Like you would put it with the brand in quotation, the best detergent brand. But then like when we would put it in the dryer, it would still have a slight fragrance. It wasn't, it wasn't like as fresh, and then we had to like I'm not trying to rib or nothing. It was
a hint.
So it's like hint, yeah. And then you got to put like baking soda in or like add additional things. And I just feel like that's something a lot of people you don't hear about as much, but I feel like more people are doing that. So if you had the ability to just put in that detergent and not have to add anything else and the smell is removed, I don't need the shirt to smell like lavender. I just need like the original smell to be gone.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what people want.
And that's what we do. Like I tell people this all the time. My husband's gym clothes were about to get up and walk off. And I was afraid, like they would be in a different position. Every time I turn my back, they're moving.
This is
No, it's not.
I know.
They're like
Joy
20
clearly
years old. It's like
stuffed
get some
the load.
I can't wait till we get to the relationship aspect.
just get some new clothes. But no,
yeah,
you don't
let
have
the shirts go. That's true.
But
you can let
going
them
back
go.
to your question about the color, no, it does not take out color. It does not. It preserves your color. It doesn't damage the clothes. It doesn't make them look that ashy look. You don't get any of that.
So if I have a black shirt, if I do 10 washes,
it should be black.
And you can wash it with your pets, with your dog's clothes. That's what's also we didn't really go into that or whatever, but we wanted to make sure it was all inclusive. So we got a sister-in-law that comes up on weekends sometimes. She'll bring the pet. She has Ada, this puppy. So we wanted to make sure it was also like tested for support for the pets.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's all on.
How long did it take you to develop the brand? I'm sorry, not the brand, I'll say. How long did it develop? Let me break this question up. How long did it take you to develop the formulation that you're satisfied and proud to go out to market with now? And how long did it take you to get the brand?
And also just the name. Also, I'd be intrigued. Like, I thought it was going to be like, oh, this is our last name, and that's why, but it's not. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So as far as the formulation, that took a little over a year. We tested it for another year before we brought it to market. But as far as the name, I will let Augie comment on that one.
Yeah. So, I'm that kid that, my parents are Nigerian. It was a little tough growing up back in the day, with that situation. But that's my own childhood. That's my own childhood scars. No, but I'm really proud. Another episode. I'm really proud of my Igbo heritage. So Dinobi means precious in Igbo. And when we started brainstorming about what we wanted the product to be, we wanted transparency and the expectation of high quality ingredients to become like the norm in the marketplace. So it's almost this play on, people and families are the most precious thing that we have on this earth. So they need the most precious ingredients.
Man, so we're hearing that you guys, high power career as a principal, high power career as an accountant, 4 kids and counting. You start this brand.
Y'all can take that last kid, yeah.
You start this brand. At the same time, you decide to leave your highly successful career. So talk a little bit about, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but was there some type of, parent guilt that you kind of had or family guilt and focusing on your career and then not being able to be as present as you would like to be? Because as we understand, you were putting in 12, 16-hour days routinely. And I know just me putting in like a 9, 10-hour day, like the strain that caused with just one child. Can you talk a little bit about what that process and how you guys came together for the strength of your relationship to make the call that you guys did?
There was one time when I looked at my wife and I just kind of had to give her an apology. I had to give her an apology because I didn't really recognize that I wasn't investing in the home like I needed to. I think that we were all just kind of raised with whatever we were raised with. So for me, being a man meant you bring home a check, take them to church, make sure you don't hit her, and some other little small things that I think are more technical things versus those bigger kind of adaptive things, man. So like going through that process over the last few years had kind of gotten me to a point of really recognizing, of course through like couples therapy and counseling as well, hadn't gotten me to recognize that I need to be a little bit more sensitive to the needs of the household and start putting boundaries up. And that became really, really difficult because I had to juggle, all right, how do I be a great turnaround principal, managing about 600 people, 21 departments, a local school council, the teachers union, the inspector general's office, and the list goes on, and then also be a good husband, invest in my wife's dreams, be a good father, and then every once in a while still be Augie that can still drop a couple bars. I'm like, how do I do all those things? Bars. You know what I mean? And whenever I was good in one, I sucked in another one. And just me and my wife should start having constant conversations about the fact that it's okay to set boundaries, the fact that it's okay to put your family first. And I'm gonna be honest with you, since I actually transitioned out, I've had a lot more time to really reflect on it and say, dang, like, it makes me give my wife just that much credit for kind of sticking through this situation with me as I went through this kind of like transition, because it was a serious couple of years, man. There was a lot of hard work put in, a lot of great work that was put in, but it was at the detriment of our family to a certain extent. Luckily, my kids are happy. My wife, I hope, is happy, and we're just kind of proceeding forward.
That's where you're supposed to say you're happy, Sylvia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She still hasn't said it.
Happy.
So you know.
I am happy. I was thinking, as you were talking, I was thinking about a question you had asked earlier. When you have someone who is working all the time, my father was like that. He's a doctor. He worked all the time, and my mother was a stay-at-home mom. And you would think kind of that thing kind of works. Well, you go do the hunting, man, and mama, you take care of the kids and stay home. But oftentimes, because you're working so much or you're chasing your dreams or whatever it is, and then you have kids in the mix, you kind of forget that you need to do the same things, or not even the same things. You need to fill up your partner like you were before you were married. And so when you get caught up in life and things like that, those things kind of get lost in translation. So sometimes there's two things. You have to be okay when you marry somebody who is ambitious, be okay with their ambition and be okay with being supportive and the stuff that comes with that. However, we forget about the flip side where the ambition needs to maybe be cut off at a certain time. There has to be a boundary to it. It can't be on 24 hours a day because you do have other responsibilities. But once you find that balance, whatever that is, you kind of learn how to ebb and flow. You're more willing to give, in order to have some balance.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to say. That's like a good way of putting it. Like if you really think about it, even if you're like super ambitious, and it might be a little bit at the sacrifice of like quality time, like nobody's happy. It's like both people in the relationship aren't happy, even though, you know what I'm saying?
Even though you have certain things.
Yeah, so I think that it's hard though, because nobody trains you how to be a parent.
Yeah.
Nobody teaches you how to balance this stuff out. I'm a teacher, so I can only imagine like the work-life balance. That's like the worst job for work-life balance. So they don't really give you the tools you need. I guess I would be curious. There's a sacrifice that you guys have to make. And I was just curious, like how, like, I'm trying to think of the way the question could go, but if the sacrifice that you've had to make for your brand, how do you feel it's going to pay off in the end? Or like,
yeah, so for me, I know I'm all in. So we just gonna go until we get there, regardless. Because it just came to a point with me where I said, okay, I can spend my time wrestling and not prioritizing the way I need to, and still end up thinking like, I'm a principal, that's good money. I'm just like, dude, then why is this only $30 in this account by the end of the pay? What is going on? Right? Because you running and juggling and jumping through and doing all this stuff. I always like to ask people, especially like young men I mentor, I like to ask them, okay, it's okay to be ambitious. It's okay to be genius, but why? Let's unpack that ambition and let's get to the bottom of the root of where that's coming from. Because oftentimes it could be steeped in some insecurities. It can be steeped in some fears. It could be steeped in anxiety and all these things. And you can't even be your best when you're like that. So I don't know. For me, I just feel like once you get to that point of prioritizing, you start seeing things happen. So we've seen a lot of success even in the business in a short period of time. We just officially launched in April. So we tested the product for a long time, just officially launched in April. We're starting to see distribution open up for us. We're starting to see things happen. And it's just kind of like it's not necessarily being forced. The biggest eye opener for me, because I had been busy for so many years, was being at home with the kids. Yo. I didn't have a lot of empathy for real for my wife, which is terrible. Because like she was at home with the kids and I come home and I'm like, yo, that shirt was right there on that floor. Like, why is it not pristine clean?
I'm tired.
Yeah.
And when I stay home with the kids, I'm telling you, y'all remember Trey from Boys in the Hood? When he came back in the house after the police were messing with him, he had that tantrum. He's air fighting.
Yeah.
Fam, I air fought like 6 times. Like it's like, oh my God, because the kids, it's a lot of pressure.
That's a job in and of itself.
And it gave me opportunity to empathize and kind of figure it out. Now, I'm not gonna be a stay-at-home father. Like I just can't do it. But it did give me a space to realize just the value of what it was that was happening in the home.
Just to add one more thing to it, how we're surviving this whole thing, because we are both naturally ambitious, we made it a family thing. It wasn't I'm chasing a dream and he's just backing me up, or I'm pushing his thing and this, that, and the third. This is, this is us. We've even got the kids involved. We made it kind of our own joint venture type thing. So when you're inclusive and you're not just thinking about yourself or just thinking about the other person, nobody feels like they're not getting something that they need.
I think you guys both said a couple things I want to touch on. I think Sylvia, you made the point about filling each other's tanks. Mm-hmm. Can you tell people what that is? Because that's a concept that Joy introduced to me that she had read about.
My tank is empty.
Yes, I hear that.
Figure this out.
I heard that constantly.
What is your problem?
And we'll say it. We're doing couples counseling.
Yeah.
And even when things
we've
are
been
good,
there.
we're going. We're just going right now.
It does make a difference.
We feel things are going good now, but it still helps. But can we talk about that, the love tank, and what that is, and how does it get empty, and how does one fill it?
So, our love tank, for me, I call it, I need to be watered. So there's certain things that we all need from each other, right? We all have our different love languages and things like that, or things that we receive or comprehend as being love or feeling loved. So, for instance, acts of service is something that I need. Like if you pick up or take out the trash without me having to ask you to do it, that's an act of service. That means you love me. For him, I need to stroke his ego or give. No.
Just
seriously.
Words she meant. She was trying to say words of affirmation.
I mean, my
words of affirmation.
Just say good job.
That's what she meant. Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. I need my. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say it like that. But here we go. So let me affirm
ego, that little boy.
No, that is not what I meant. No, seriously.
She got to build you up. That's all she's trying
She
to
got to
say.
tear you down to build you up.
There we go.
Yeah.
This is some iceberg slam.
Y'all doing me wrong. No. So words of affirmation, making sure that we spend at least, we don't always get to do it like we should be doing it, but at least 30 minutes a day of just talking to each other and filling each other up with, hey, this is something that you did that was so great today. This is something I love about you. This is something that, you give the compliments first and say, okay, look, you did all these things great, but here's where we need to work on some things. And he's had to do the same to me, So filling each other up is really just making sure that you show some appreciation, not necessarily always just let me buy you a box of candy, let me go buy you some flowers or whatever. It's a lot about communication. Sometimes you just need to hear that you're okay and that we're okay.
You know what I found in our relationship, and those same principles. Whether it's, hey, rate your day on a scale of 1 to 10, and if your day was like a 4 or below, you give that person a little bit of space, and you like either prep dinner or just take on the kids while they reset. It's finding the time to do those things, to say, how are you doing? Or to find the time to give each other a 30-second hug twice a day. Like you think those sound so simple, and then you look up, man, it's been 3 days since we've sat and just hugged for 30 seconds, because time will go by, or you'll get distracted, or you'll be like, scrambling eggs, and then she'll go in for the hug, like, well, I don't want to burn these eggs. What are you doing right now? Like, get away. Why don't you do this right now?
I need a hug right now. I don't care.
Let me burn these eggs. Right. And then the whole day will go by and be like, yeah. So I think that's interesting. You bring up the tank and, the need to fill it and to empty it, and how love languages apply, or really your need, what fills your tank just evolves with kids. Because what I needed, just being able to take a 2-hour nap or sleep in Saturday until 9 o'clock, just like, that filled my love tank. And I know what it takes to take on both of those kids, on a Saturday morning, especially after we were out, on a Friday night. So it's like hearing another couple talk about a love tank doesn't allow you don't feel alone.
Oh yeah, no,
definitely.
I think too, it's so hard to not like talk. Like you talk to each other, but it's like not to talk at each other. Right. And I think that's the key component that I feel like once I had kids, I was more the talk at, and then that's when he more was like, I'm not one of your students. And I'm like, and then I'm trying to get, so I feel that's a really key component. And that's another reason why I wanted to bring you guys on the show, because I just was curious, like, how do you keep organized? Like, how do you, to run a whole business? Are you guys have an intense schedule?
I would say the first thing is the forgiveness, of ourselves, because, both of us, do function and have been used to functioning in environments where everything was on a calendar, every piece of data was on a spreadsheet. I think for us, it's kind of forgiving ourselves when we do have a miss. But, again, thinking about like just kind of like that work-life integration, because that's kind of that's our belief system. It's not, I don't necessarily know if there's a such thing as complete perfect balance. I think you've got to figure out things that work for your household, work for your family, so they can be integrated in a way. So like going back to Sylvia's point around inclusivity. But, we got a home office, and in our home office, we try to really kind of like calendar things out, so we can kind of see our routines throughout like the entire year. So like all the trade shows we want to go to, all the things that we want to hit, all the big pitches that are coming up, like all those things are in there. But then we also have like a more granular kind of day-to-day calendar. And I remember this was actually a funny situation that we used to have a few years back in the beginning of our marriage, where Sylvia was just like so into corporate America. So like she's like, corporate America is a little bit different from public service, because corporate America, if you don't check that email, like you could lose your job. I think public service is becoming like that, but corporate America is definitely like that. So she would send me a calendar invite. And she'd be like, yo, Icon Theater, this particular time we going to the movies. And like, that would be it. It would be no conversation. And then like Friday night comes around and I want to go play basketball. And we would have those kind of crossroads or whatever. Was right when you about to walk out the door. And the conversation was right when I got on my basketball shoes. No. Like, we about to go. I'm about to go. Yeah. And we've gotten to the point now where it's just like we do recognize the fact that before I send that invite out or whatever, let me at least touch base. Or if I send it out, let me call back, make sure I explain it. So you do have some of those, whatever. I think we're doing a better job in terms of kind of in a way, and this is going to sound real crazy, but almost like org charting our household. So like, all right, so when it comes down to who's going to deal with the accountant and deal with the taxes, that's something that I just hate. I got to trust that you're going to do that, and you're going to do it and not jack me up, which I know my wife wouldn't, and you're going to be the person that deals with that. But then when it comes to, like, for instance, if there's something around the house that needs to get done, like if there's a leak on a roof or something like that, then I got to be the one to go into that. So it's trying to kind of divide and conquer when we need to, but recognizing the power of us being together is ultimately what we want. But yeah.
Just to add to that, we've had businesses before, And it's like, okay, it didn't work out. So what did we do to not make it work out? Sometimes you have to enlist help in areas that you don't necessarily know about and be okay with saying, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing, because you end up paying for it anyway.
Yeah.
So we enlisted a professional accountant to do the taxes. I don't have time for that. We enlisted a professional lawyer. I don't have time to go on LegalZoom. Shout out to LegalZoom. I don't have no problem with them, but I ain't got time. We enlist the kids. Like, look, we are a large family, so everybody has to help where they can. Littles, if you can't, whatever you're capable of doing, you will do. And that's it. But we make it fun, you know.
Yeah.
We get them involved. We got them little T-shirts, and we, you know, have conversations about it. So it's kind of, so you alleviate some of the stress when you, as my mother would say, many hands make light work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have a question. I might go a little bit off topic here. As you have kids, you know, one of the things Joy and I were speaking about when coming up with this podcast, how do your dreams shift once you have kids, right? And I think it's not even how, like, let's talk about how our dreams have shifted, right? I mean, our first episode, our first guest, Corey Gilkey, shout out. So Corey, you know, we talked a lot about, you know, in that episode, we spoke about how at some point in your life, you have to realize that you suck at what you want to do, and you have to shift your dream to find out what you can do, because at some point I had to realize I'm not going to be taller than 5'10" and a half. So this basketball dream needs to give up. I was this height in 6th grade. So I was like, yo, I got another 5-6 inches. Oh, and this is just baby fat. It'll fall off. Never happened. Never happened. So you quickly, it was easy to give that up once I got to Whitney Young Men in high school, the best school in the country at both basketball and academics at the time when I was there, but no big deal. And you see like, oh wow, there's a whole nother level. So it was easy for me to give up that dream. You know, as I, you know, graduated and got into my marketing career, you have different dreams and aspirations and a hunger, you know, really to be ambitious, and that's what's monopolizing your time. And it's easy to do that when you're single, or even to a point when we were just married or engaged, because you still had enough time even on the weekends to get, you know, fill each other's tanks. And now with kids, you're trying to fill everybody's tank, and it feels like, you know, I feel sometimes my own personal tank is depleted because I've given everything I can. And to be honest, I probably focus more on filling my kids' tank, and then, you know, then my wife, and then me way down here, and then it's not ideal right now. So it's like, I don't even know if I have a question here, but I guess I'm just kind of making that point. We talk about, like, you know, we talk about ambitions and dreams, and it's just like mine have like shifted since I've had kids, because my whole ambition, my entire 20s was like, I need to rise as high as I can on this ladder so I can make the most money.
Yeah.
And now it's like, how can I use my 9 to 5 to make sure that we just keep the lights on and the food is in the fridge and the daycare is paid on time. And then, you know, my ambitions, I can feel my passions on my side versus having to integrate them into my 9 to 5. So I don't think I even asked a question. I just started talking, but like, I just want to talk about, like, how did, you know, as you guys grew your nation of kids, how did your kind of dreams and ambitions shift?
I was in corporate America. I was ambitious. I'm like, I want to be this, that, and the third. I want to be a controller, get my CPA. I was working on that, start passing the parts. And then I met Augie, and then my dreams changed into becoming a wife and a mother, because I met the person I knew I was going to be with. I met my soulmate. So I said, okay, forget all them years of working 80, 90 hours a week. It's Augie, you know. And then
Augustine has arrived.
Augustine Emuwa. So now,
I can't even.
So from there, we had children, and then it's, I want to be the best mom I can be, but I still want to be able to work, because I still got this hidden ambition, because I think I'm supposed to be doing this, but there's always this nagging thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to be an accountant, because I kind of fell into it. Then it was, now my kids are getting bigger and I'm getting a little older and our roles have shifted. So now it's, I want to get something out. My father always told me, find a need and fill it. Find a need and fill it. And it was nagging me for years. I'm like, what is he talking about? What need? What do you mean? And then when the idea came, when the vision came, I really believe it was divine intervention. When the vision came, it's like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to be changing something. My ambition for myself to make a lot of money and to be a CPA and to do all that has become, I want to change my neighborhood or change the world to some sort of way. And I know it's funny to say, well, it's just detergent. Well, if you're giving something so somebody can fix something that they haven't been able to been fixed, then maybe they're not going to the doctor so much, or maybe they can find a little relief and go to the beach, or not walk outside and feel ashamed, so they can be more productive in whatever they're supposed to be doing. So then your goals kind of shift into being less selfish and more selfless, I think.
I completely agree, because I know who my wife was before she married me. Like, this is BMW, you fly Singapore, it was, Brazil. I mean, like the amount of passport stamps were just
my
crazy.
relaxer was just popping,
and
nails done.
Yeah, like she come mess with me, and it's just like, yeah, we can go to New Orleans. Possibly to St. Louis. You know what I mean?
I mean, we could drive.
We can take a drive.
We go to the island of Stony right quick.
I'm just saying. So, I agree with you. I don't even have any way to follow that up. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Like, once you have kids, it's just a matter of trying to like find yourself. Mm-hmm. It's like, I think it's just there's like the person you were before you were married, then you're a different person once you get married, and then once you have kids, you're another person. And every single time you have to find yourself, you have to find your passion, because your passion could evolve. And I think that's the key kind of to this episode, just trying to figure out like how did your passion evolve, and who do you believe you are now, and how do you want to take that forward, because you're a different person.
Yeah. I want to say too, just to add to your point with wisdom, because even for folks that aren't married or whatever, we still have a few friends that are not, in the circle of folks that are married with kids, and we're seeing a lot of folks kind of shift, just given the fact that, like, once you get a taste of something, and you realize that taste is just, for instance, whenever I have my worst moments or whatever, and I'm scrolling through Instagram and I'm seeing folks, I'm like, oh my God, every day so-and-so is in all white with a cigar in their mouth on a boat every single day.
Yeah.
I started thinking like, dang, Augie, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So you got to be kind of careful with that stuff. But the reality is that once you get a taste of certain things, it doesn't become so urgent anymore. And it gives all of us a time to kind of be a little bit more reflective and say, okay, what is my real purpose? What is my real goal? What am I really trying to do? So what I've been seeing actually in our age group is I've been seeing a ton of folks like go ham in careers, get into the 30s, and like literally pivot. Like I've seen like stellar principals for 10 years, one day quit, and now they like doing here in Atlanta. Yeah. Like I've seen all type of stuff like that, and I really think it comes with a little bit of age and a little bit of wisdom. That's why, like, I can't wait till you guys ask that question at the end, because I kind of got my thoughts in my head about that question. Because I'm telling you, like, there's something about, like, as you get older and you start really reevaluating what's important in life, it changes your kind of goals. But I do feel like people should still dream. Because right now, like, we're in the process of dreaming. I mean, we got to go up against some giants to make this thing work, but we still feel kind of like that energy of, David and Goliath. Like, okay, we're gonna tackle this thing.
And just to add to that real quick, when you have children looking at you, and you're their first inspiration, you're their first example of anything, and then you wake up one day and you realize they're not gonna be babies much longer. They don't, because we have older children, older than y'all's. Yeah. And I woke up one day and I looked and I'm like, they don't need me as much anymore. What am I going to do when they're gone? Yeah. What am I going to do? We got one with like 1 foot halfway out the house now. Yeah. And another one, and they stagger after that. So, you never stop dreaming. The one constant is going to be change, and you have to be okay with that, because I was not okay with change when I first started having children. The other one is just being okay with dreaming, even though it may not necessarily be always easy, because you have other responsibilities. Always dream.
Have you guys had any naysayers, or like I would give a personal story. Like me and Coley, we do the improv at Second City.
Hey,
and
love it.
Fucking hilarious.
And my mom.
I'm back. I'm back.
Now we gotta go to second.
Yeah,
City.
come on.
I
August
wanna be
20th,
there.
We
have
got a show
coming
next.
up.
Was it Saturday or Friday?
Friday. But
Uh-oh,
you guys
we
won't.
going to Second City.
It'll be after this, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But anyways, we do the improv, and my mom, not hating on my mom, but she was just like, "How are you doing this? You have all these rehearsals. You have 2 small children. You know, you need to put your dreams aside and wait till they're older. I can't, like." They
Like,
need you now.
She would actively like not babysit or watch the kids.
Yeah,
wow.
because
But
I
she-
was like, because you have shows at like 10:30, and this is kind of like I didn't do this before, and then once I had kids, I started. Because you do want to be an example for them. Like, you know what? Look at your mom. She tried this. She did this, and so the point is like, I guess, have you had any naysayers, and how have you handled that?
Both with the detergent and you both making career shifts that, inevitably just like not the same income as you were making.
You know what? Sometimes your naysayers just need time. Like once you know when you have a conviction, you have to be brave enough to stand on that. And it's just like that's the hardest part. It's the hardest part when you know you got that naysayer or whatever, especially if they're a person that has like authority, some sort of informal authority in your life. You're like, this is a person I respect, I value. They're giving me their opinion, and it's just like I got to stand up to that. Right? Because I remember when I was courting my wife, I remember like, oh my God, I love my sister-in-law. Shout out to Rachel Jenkins. I love you, girl. You are like the best sister ever. But Rachel was just like, he already got a kid. You got all this XYZ going on, right?
She ain't
And
said
over time, no, she did. She kind of threw me out. But the reality is over time, you know what I mean? Like even Rachel became very convinced that this relationship was right. So it's a risk piece to that, you have to be okay to stand behind that risk. In terms of the detergent, I remember I was sitting at Google not too long ago or whatever, and I was having a conversation with somebody in one of the Google classes. And they were talking about how, these other firms are spending millions and millions of dollars on digital media. And like, how are you going to even compete when it comes to digital media? And I just stood there and I was just like, well, we're just going to compete. Whether we have a fraction of what they have in terms of a marketing budget, we're just going to compete. And I do believe that based on the awareness campaigns that we have planned, I feel like they'll touch the hearts of some, and that's all we need to start with.
Yeah.
For me, I just don't talk to him. I mean,
Yeah.
What did Kanye say? Any pessimists? I ain't talk to them.
I'm not talking to you. I don't want to hear your negative opinion. I don't want to hear it. Like I already know what. Listen, I serve a big God, and when I know that I know something, I don't want to hear your mouth. That's how I come off. Not to be mean to anybody, not to shade anybody, but sometimes you have to kind of let your actions speak for themselves. I had to learn the hard way not to seek validation from the outside. And sometimes, especially when you're feeling down or when the money's not right or when you feel like that opportunity or that door got closed in your face, or things are not going the way you thought they should go, even though things, as long as you depend on God, my personal belief, they always work themselves out. When you start walking on your faith and kind of stop trying to do it all yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody says. We're all here for a purpose, and everything will work itself out. So as far as naysayers are concerned, like going back to our relationship, I did not really encounter a lot of naysayers. It was a lot of questions like, oh, no, seriously. Oh, well, he has a child. What's the baby mama like? What's going on? I got a lot of that, but it wasn't when they met him. Okay, this is it. As far as the detergent is concerned, I haven't actually gotten a lot of naysayers. I have gotten probably a lot more push behind this idea, surprisingly, than I thought. But if I do know someone is probably not necessarily going to be the most supportive because they have a certain way of thinking, kind of keep your feet on the ground, I generally don't necessarily share until the results come.
And if you just look back at most like CEOs or people that have really just kind of like just broken through, they were told that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
You know, we got friends that have gone on like Shark Tank and basically been called everything from what they call
colorful
cockroaches. And now look at the lip bar. You know what I mean? Like, so you have situations like that. Shout out to them, man. Like, it's just, it is what it is.
Like, you know, we didn't want to do a show purely on entrepreneurship. I think that's going to be an episode that we follow up with. I think we also have a follow-up episode on the power of couples counseling, because I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of experiences that we share.
Shout out
on
to
this.
Hetty Tan.
Oof, yes, absolutely.
No, good. Shout out Hetty Tan. Hetty Tan. Yeah. And I think we want to unpack those a little bit more, but I know, you know, we're coming up on time for this episode. So before we get into things we wish we would have known, can you guys tell us where we can find Dinobi Detergent and your fine products?
So on our Squarespace, dinobidetergent.squarespace.com. You can find us at theecobabystore.com or shopsaconi.com. Coming to a store near you. Got some things working out. But yeah, for right now, and we pop up in the city randomly. We put that on our IG and stuff like that.
Can you give the listeners a sense of your pricing?
So our 32-ounce bottle, which is about 32 loads, medium-sized loads, is $19.99. We also do a travel size spot treatment at about $6 with tax. Everything comes in glass. We are working on some really cool innovations to really help shoppers save money even after they purchase the first go round. We also do a little bit of branding, a little bit of merch. So we've got Dinobi onesies that are unscented onesie, because that's our promise to the public that we're going to leave your baby's bum unscented. So those are around $16.99, and we do a lot of bundles. Also, we are on babylist.com. So like if you're doing a baby shower gift, it's always nice to think about the bundle that you can put together for a mom.
And what's your IG handle?
Dinobi_detergent.
Okay, cool. And I was noticing you guys' cool shirts, your merchandise, and I was just curious, like, how did you come up with the design and the brand?
Yeah, so again, like Dinobi, you know, in Igbo is precious. The actual colors are an inverted Nigerian flag. A lot of people don't catch that. The O is really kind of like the focal point. It's like our icon, and it means like a little bit of circle of life. And you see the two leaves kind of popping at the top. That kind of gives everybody an impression that we are a plant-based, 100% vegan brand. Also, too, just for the grammar lovers out there, it's a long O sound, so it helps with that. And I always got to go back to this. My mom, I love you to death, but it's not Dinobi, it's Dinobi.
Moms. That's it.
Awesome. So happy that we had, you know, our first show where we've been able to talk about a Black owned, run, and built business and a built brand. So amazing having you guys today.
Thank you for having us. This was awesome. Thank you so much. You guys are doing this. This is real big.
Oh yeah,
this is awesome.
Oh yeah,
Hopefully, we got super. Okay,
yeah.
I have one slight comment that Augie used the word courting in reference to Sylvia. I don't see why anyone would question him. He used the word court, so that means he was really showing her love.
Oh my goodness. With that, we end every show with the little segment called Things We Wish We Would Have Known. More than anything, you know, when our kids listen to this 20, 30, 40 years from now, we want them to hear a jewel from us that be like, damn, like glad our parents told us this so we don't have to take that L, or, you know what, we're going to take this L, but this will get us to the other side. So, you know, things we wish we would have known. Who wants to go first today?
I guess I will go first. I would say the thing that I wish I would have known is that the way you project yourself to the world might not be the way you actually think you're projecting yourself. And just to kind of like reflect and like, there's probably a different version of yourself that you have at work, with your family, with your kids. When you're out at the club, you know what I mean? It's just like the different versions of yourself, but really like knowing yourself at the same time. As I feel sometimes it might be a disconnect between these different versions you're putting out and who you really are. So something I wish I would have known is just like truly who I am at the core, I guess.
That's deep. Should have ended with that one.
So things I wish I had have known, or what I would tell my younger self, would be okay with process. Be okay with the process. Be okay with being pruned, because everything is not going to come to you easy, especially if you are dreaming big. Be okay with process, because it's all, part of a divine plan, and everything you go through is for a reason. So.
Cool. Something I wish I would have known is the importance of kind of consistency and avoiding hollow promises. We ran into each other we mostly see each other like scrambling to pick up the kids. You guys a lot more than anybody else in the daycare, but that's to be expected. But we said, hey, you guys should come on our podcast, and it wasn't just a hollow thing we said just in passing, just to try to make small talk. Like, matter of fact, we're working hard to avoid small talk. That's kind of a Blake family thing we're trying to do. So we're like, we didn't want to say something hollow, like, you guys should be on our podcast. Hey, are you guys available this Sunday to be on our podcast? Hey, are you available at this time? So, the importance of being consistent and following through and not making hollow stuff just for the sake of saying something. I think that goes a long way, and I think it just speaks to your character and allows you to create bonds and friendships that go beyond just superficial stuff.
Yeah. Something I wish I would have known was that you actually should really, really try to geek out. I think of I just recently took our oldest son, who's a really, really talented artist, to the Museum of Contemporary Art, because I know it's like Virgil Abloh has this thing there or whatever. And you got a chance to see a man who has completely indulged in his geeky side, his creative side. Not saying that, it's just for creators, but I feel like, any kid that feels like they have an affinity for something should really explore that. I do feel like, even in terms of when I think about my career in hindsight, I became a principal based off of kind of getting shifted into it. Not necessarily knowing that that's what I wanted to be. And when the walls come crashing down and you got to kind of stand and take that accountability for your own decision making or lack of decision making, it comes from that space of not indulging in that thing that you really, really love. So, focus on the thing you love, focus on geeking out, focus on being as into it as possible, and things will work themselves out.
Man, guys, I think this is probably one of our most powerful and profound episodes that we've done. I think, you guys as listeners, I hope you appreciate, what we've tried to bring you, the guests, what we're trying to bring you, and really please support this podcast, and let's support the Dinobi brand. So thank you guys once again.
Thank you.
Yay.
This was awesome. We coming to dinner too.
Nice. Nice. Let's do it.
Well, we'll come to your house first, and then you could come to our house.
Yeah, I don't think
we're
we can,
serious.
Yeah, I don't think we can fit all your kids
Oh,
in our
stop.
house. We don't have enough chairs. We're gonna take in the patio furniture. So that's our show. Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast. What's up?